right, we lost a couple people, but we will push on. So, yeah. So thank you for returning. The second part will be on regulations and barriers of energy communities, and Stéphane from Energies 2050 in France will kick us off.
Okay, I will try to expand. Okay, perfect. Okay. So thank you for, the best one to stay at the end for this discussion. I think it's an interesting discussion, by the way, but okay. So I will give 2-3 words, very general ones. After I will put some insight about FEDECOM. You will see it's quite interesting because, by the way, I imagine by somewhere we will be facing all the difficulties from energy community somewhere because we want a cloud platform, but we have such a different type of pilots which is critical, and especially we have one which is transnational. So at the end, it's interesting because it asks a lot of questions, so that's the point. And after, I will, let's say, introduce 4 to 5 key pillars to the so-called, for us, energy transition, which is behind the energy community, and we need to keep in mind the global perspective to imagine what are the barriers and what can be the policy frameworks. So that's me, it's not important. So everybody say prosumer and all the group of stakeholders need to be involved somewhere. Okay, so, but as soon as we at least mention all these stakeholders, we introduce a kind of puzzle approach. And all of these group of stakeholders can have different performance, different behaviors, depending the type of activity we have in mind. But at the end, prosumer, whatever you consider individuals or, let's say, public authorities or consumer, large consumer, will be the game. Okay, so just one question. The first definition of energy community, I'm not so sure we have considered today. What is the first definition? But the first definition, why we have this concept in mind, is first to have flexibility on the demand, flexibility to be in position to absorb flexibility on production, but somewhere also to reduce the demand. And by doing that, we need to change the behaviors. It is not only to optimize the consumption, but also to reduce the global consumption. This is something as an official definition of energy communities, but in many projects you don't even mention that. So changing the behaviors to reduce the cost and to be in front of the full production of renewables is good, but at the end you need to also reduce because you will increase whatever the trends are, your demand, but you need to reduce your demand. So this is also an aspect we need to discuss when we have this, let's say, kind of approach somewhere. So going back to FEDECOM, it's a federated system approach for flexible and interoperable energy communities. It's a quite recent EU project with 17 European partners, 7 countries. And the 3 main objectives, to be very fast on this part, is to develop and deploy a cloud-based platform for sector coupling, distributed generation and storage, high demand flexibility services, and improvement of renewable energy sources hosting. And for that, we have a platform to be developed. And this platform is, let's say, the core point of our projects to be in position to produce, consume, and exchange surplus of energy, to increase intra- and inter-community exchange, to aggregate data, to anticipate production consumption, and to have a kind of cloud platform services with predictive modeling and optimization capabilities, to have for sure a cost optimization and flexible energy system, and to be in position to measure, forecast, optimize, control, and trade. So as you say, it's quite challenging, it's very ambitious. For that, I will not go too much in detail, but we need also to have a kind of transparency frameworks and to be in position to have all the necessary data to make all the different type of technology to be involved, to work together, to be in a position we can have this predictive approach, and to be in position also to exchange and to anticipate both the behaviors, the demand, and also the availability. And about the pilots, we have 3 large pilots. The first one is the Residential Hydropower Federation in Switzerland. We have also in Spain in different sites, mixing different technology from hydrogen to PV to a lot of, and even thermal. So all these ones need to work together, and we have also, in this one in particular, different type of stakeholder involved. We have large company to generate also storage to fuel some buses. We have public and old public also facilities. We have private household, and all this one is to communicate and to be in an energy community perspective and with all this exchange. And we have also the very interesting e-mobility federation with vehicle storage in both Benelux, so Belgium and Netherlands, which is really interesting because for me it will be the first one dealing with transnational approach. Why it's feasible? Because of the blockchain as a platform, as a transparency framework. But you see how it will be challenging because of the data and also the availability, but also the way we are going to feed with the national legislation. So just to say now, what are the key pillars for about the barriers, the regulatory frameworks, and what we have in mind about the challenge. I will say we have 5 pillars of change. The first one is a technological integration and grid management. On this one, I will say we have many innovation, it's good, but I will say it's already work somewhere. Even if the granularity of projects will create a lot of complexity, but at the end, we are also already in position to integrate quite a significant amount of flexibility in the grid management. So now we need to decentralize this approach at the local level and to need to have all this data we were all speaking about to anticipate the flexibility and to create a business model at the end, but not only a business model, as I was saying, both a demand flexibility, but also a change in the behaviors and to create an interest for all the type of stakeholders. Okay? So this is the first one. I will not go in detail because of the time. So the second one is the regulatory and policy framework. On that one, I think it's quite really important to understand where are energy community in this big picture at national and local level. And if you want to make a comparison, look to the climate strategy at national level. The so-called NDC, adaptation, local plan, whatever. You know, it's a kind of top-down and bottom-up approach. This is how we create our carbon strategies. The Green Deal is like that, so to answer the global challenge. And in that perspective, all the reluctant countries is because they didn't decide to decentralize the management of the energy at the real local level. So this is why so many differences appears. For example, in France, the regulation on energy community is very brand new. And so far, we have many different initiatives which are not energy community at all. They are just group of stakeholders producing, selling, exchanging, sometimes dealing with data, but it's very sensitive. But they didn't have all the type of contractual energy community. So, and if we compare Austria, Germany, they have thousand, and even dozens of thousand installations, which are not so far from energy community. So here, it's also a national strategy. When we advocate with the local municipality, are we in position to anticipate the contribution of energy community in the climate local plan? If not, it will be difficult to scale up the market. You know? But if we have the strategy to decentralize energy community has to become a pillar of the national strategy for the energy transition. And here, the regulatory frameworks will change quite easily because we are in position to have this bottom-up, top-down approach, and we have all the KPI at national and international as well as European level. So going back again, we have the financing and investment challenge. All the previous, let's say, projects introduced this point, and it was quite challenging. But we need to create value for all type of stakeholders. And in the previous presentation, we introduced the word ESCO. Everybody knows ESCO, but we have different type of ESCO on different type of things dealing with energy. We have the energy contract performance, we have the real ESCO services for lighting, for blah. So it's working ESCO, but an ESCO need a market to be in position to scale up. Otherwise, it will be just a case studies, but an ESCO is just a services. Whatever the one will be the services. So in FEDECOM, for example, we have the Swiss partner, which is both a TSO, DSO, and also work with technology provider. So in that case, the size of what it can manage make, let's say, credibility to have a business model. On some EU project, we have difficulties because the solution is so expensive. Why? Because we don't have a market. It not means they are not good, but we need to develop this kind of new incentive, financial models to create and to overpass the barriers. So we can have many things through green bonds, special tariff, whatever. Facilities, tax exemption, many things can work. And on that aspect, it's quite easy at the end. And especially because even if the cost of technology is reducing now, we have the upfront cost to create some communities, at least, which is complex, but at the end, the technology cost is so low now. And just for your information, this year, almost 80% of the global renewable energy production worldwide was less expensive than the traditional fuel one. So 80% almost. So it means globally, all these technologies are more or less mature. So it's just a question of how we are going to arrange the legal frameworks to feed, let's say, the financial models, which is quite important. But by the way, the technology is not the main, let's say, difficult component. After, we have also the consumer engagement and behavioral change. And here it's really challenging. We have all these examples. We have also many projects on that at EU, with the EU. And it's quite important because why guys are not so interested, and Zia was also mentioning that. He just speak about the benefit. But it's not also a question of benefit. If we just consider the benefit approach, it will not work. Why? Because at the end, the 5 pillars will be also the inclusivity. And the inclusivity has to go somewhere with the legal frameworks. Otherwise, we don't have a models to feed all of them. So the change of behaviors is critical. And critical because guys need to understand the global picture. When it's work, it's very easy. Guys, as you were saying, they invest, they co-invest, they co-share. So at the end, they feel concerned somewhere. But we have so many examples when it's not working because at the end, guys join a group, but at the end, changing the things is quite complex. And here we introduce sometimes the cost of effort. What does it mean? Flexibility is not a question of money, it's not only a question of data, it's a question of, do I agree to change my habit in a position just to fit the collective approach? And the collective approach, if we extend not having only household, is also to have different type of consumer. At the end, also, I need to consider this private, this industry, this plant, which is also consuming part of my production. And at the end, all this global effort has to be equilibrated, hopefully to consummate 100% of renewables and not importing too much. And at the end, sometimes feeding also the grid with the exceed. So this is also one challenge about the behaviors to feel really concerned. And on that point, I also want to introduce, and this is also a question of regulation somewhere, it is the sensitivity of data. We have produced a report in FEDECOM, and it's very interesting. The sensitivity of data is not just a vision. Okay, we need data, but guys don't want to provide data for many reasons. In some countries, especially the north of Europe, more or less welcome. In the south part, and especially for France, for example, wow, it's so critical. Guys don't want to share data. So if you want to install something, sensor, to be in position to control. So now, the regulation, we will have some smart meters dealing with some control about the appliance to put some penalties on the price. So is it a change or is it a constraint? Is it in position to scale up, or people, do they agree to share their habits? So it's also a point we really need to understand, because the data is not only the peak production, the demand, the flexibility, but also are we in position to elaborate such a set of data to answer all the stakeholder needs, to, for them, design the good models and to take the good business models to scale up. And the last pillar, I will say, it's equity and social inclusion. I will stop, sorry, I'm long. It's equity and social inclusion. And on this aspect, I think it's also a question of regulation. We cannot imagine, we have a community we work with, it is in Grenada. And now they have its work, okay, but they want to include also low incomes in the energy community. It will not work. At least we need subsidies somewhere. We need the models to organize a tax sharing, a tax benefit. Otherwise, how are we going to imagine these guys to make a system or to feed a system with unbalanced, let's say, incomes to feed and with unbalanced consumption somewhere, with unbalance also about the appliance and with mixing public-private stakeholders, which is quite complex. So again, here we need some policy driven. So I will stop here just to say maybe the last conclusion to say energy community, when we introduce this topic, because we spoke about the barriers, I think we need to change the narrative. Energy community, we have so many barriers. If we list all the barriers, it will never work. For me, energy communities, it is maybe one of the most great opportunity to change the paradigm about the energy transition in Europe. What does it mean? It means if we want to succeed, can you imagine the Commission expects 45% to be generated by citizens by 2050? Frankly, it makes no sense. If we don't change the narrative, it makes no sense. But if we change the narrative to say we need to design energy communities as a pillar in all national legislation with a granularity to involve local stakeholders and both the national and to feed their national commitments with the key reporting both at the EU level, national level and UNFCCC level, at the end you have something which is critical, and here energy community can appear to be something very successful at the end. So I will stop here because I'm long. This is for me so crazy interesting topics, and so I will hope you will have some opportunity to exchange at least by email or question, because after I will have to take my flight. Sorry for that.
Thank you. Another person who has to leave for their flight is next Yvonne from R2M Spain, presenting BECKON. If he has to leave, sorry.
I will use my plane, so yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to present the project called BECKON. The topic is different to the one presented before. This is related to the concept of the one-stop shop. I don't know if you are familiar with that, but I will try to give you a feeling on that. Yeah, so very quickly, what is the BECKON project about? It's boosting energy communities, massive deployment by equipping local authorities with comprehensive technical assistance cookbook, integrated service, and capacity building. So basically, this project is about the development of a one-stop shop with the concept of this, let's say, new tool specifically for energy communities is about to provide support in the deployment of energy communities under the concept of one-stop shop, meaning that the different issues that can come up within the process of developing an energy community can be sorted out in a centralized sort of way. So that's more or less the idea. But now we'll go a little bit deeper on that. So yeah, this is the main objective of BECKON: facilitate the creation, maintenance, and replication of energy communities across Europe. The target groups, so the users of the one-stop shop platform that we are implementing and developing and implementing are public authorities, local action groups, and it can be used by many different stakeholders. But yeah, let's say like energy agencies, like stakeholders in a level that can coordinate different action and provide technical support. So just a very quick also in the project. So what we have is we have 3 demo areas. One is in Spain, is the energy agency of Ávila province. So basically what they do is to deliver these services to the different municipalities within this Ávila region. We have also in Denmark the city of Copenhagen, and they are deploying this one-stop shop within the municipality and offering their services for energy communities that can be developed within the municipality. And also we have the energy agency of Sofia in Bulgaria. which is also providing support to the whole area. The idea with this tool is to it's a supporting tool. This is the key of the idea of the main idea of the concept. The idea is to launch 25 energy communities in the demonstrated area. It means that at least 25 energy communities are supported by this new one-stop shop tool. And this is in the stage of the project that we are actually now. So we are basically offering the services to the different energy communities that showed interest on deploying their energy communities. And also we are providing technical assistance to another 15 energy communities across Europe, and we are engaging, this is the objective, to over 30 authorities, and we are, getting there. So yeah, now I will just explain a little bit the concept, because I think it's important to the concept of live beckon, and then I will go straight to the one-stop shop. So the idea, what we propose in the project, is to have a capacity, in one side, a capacity building program with basically the train of trainers approach. Also, we have set up technical assistant offices, physical offices, which is in Avila, in Sofia, and Copenhagen. And those people in these technical assistant offices, the tool they will use to provide the support will be the one-stop shop. So this is kind of the whole ecosystem that includes the project, and the digital tool for that is the one-stop shop. Basically, the one-stop shop is what I'm going to comment right now. The way that we have structured, of course, if we think in a one-stop shop concept, the different things, the different needs that you should be able to cover in order to develop an energy community is definitely, there are many issues, many topics that have to be approached. We can imagine that people from different type of communities, different type of stakeholders, it can come from the residential, it can come from the industry, it can come from public authorities from other municipalities, asking for support. This is in terms of stakeholders. If we look at that in terms of technologies, we can talk about mobility, we can talk about thermal energy in the frame of energy communities. So one-stop shop is supposed to be able to deliver assistance to all these models. So one of the challenge was to frame a little bit, because obviously it's difficult to be able to provide all the support needed for any need that you can imagine. So the way that to somehow frame the support, that obviously is something that ideally should be extended. We divided in the platform in 3 hubs. One is the guidance hub, and where you can find that in that part of the platform is a step-by-step guidance to set up your energy community. So, for example, people that get into the platform, or local, the technician of the municipality from the energy agency can log in and will have a tool to support end users through the process of creating their energy community. So there is like a, let's say, like a step-by-step process, which is been designed to cover the main steps in a logical way that you should take to create an energy community. Here we have seen presentation in the session before with the different steps that you should tackle, you should cover in order to create your energy community. So you have that in one side. This is very challenging because, yes, I'm saying it has to be stuck to a specific model, and so we are focused here in the photovoltaic, and then the way it's designed is like modular, so then different technologies can add on top of this step-by-step guidance. Then we have the training hub, and this is training material. As I was saying, we are using here different the train of trainers approach, but also the open innovation journey methodologies for training key stakeholders that are promoting the energy communities. And also we have another interesting feature, which is the Opportunity Hub, which is, let's say, like a matchmaking, a place where different stakeholders within the community can interact each other. So basically, this is what we have now. We are in the stage of the project that the platform is already developed, and we are in the replication stage, in which both the pilot areas that I was mentioning before and also the replicators are now assessing the platform, and well, basically we are getting feedback on how useful is that, what parts of the platform find them more useful, what features are they missing, this kind of things. And we have 1 year until the end of the project to, let's say, fine-tune the platform to satisfy the user needs. And now, well, going to the topic of this workshop, instead of talking about I wanted to put it more in the opportunity to look at that, not from the barrier but from the opportunity side. But at the end of the day, it's kind of similar if you look in a different way, in a way around. So I think the potential of the one-stop shop concept is that it's a powerful tool to simplify all the complex processes and all the topics and all the things that have to be done in order to develop energy communities. So we found in several experiences that is really a mess, and people get really lost in the steps that you have to make, how you sort out the doubt, because you have the social perspective, the regulatory perspective, you have the financial perspective, the technical perspective. So, and in many cases, there is the communities themselves, the ones that have to face all these, to approach all these topics, and to have a place, let's say the one-stop shop, that support you in all the different aspects. It's really help to reduce these, let's say, we can say barriers for the deployment. One of the in terms of barriers, my colleague before mentioned already quite a few, and we can imagine many others. One of them is the access to financing. I think that one of key role of the one-stop shop, and at least in the way that we are providing and delivering the services, is to support in the finance. At the end of the day, that's the reality. Is in many cases the financial aspect is an issue, and the one-stop shop can play a very important role on helping the communities to access financing in many different ways. So this is something very critical. And also from the administrative point of view, I will also say that this is another big barriers that we have seen when we are talking about specific deployment of energy communities, that you have to install a collective plan, and well, I don't know, but in the countries in which we are operating, and especially in Spain, the connection of the plant, for example, is really is very hard, it's very tough in terms of administrative procedures. So providing this support to a specific community to move on that administrative pathway is very helpful, and actually people is very thankful on that. So I would say that this is, in summary, that I believe that one-stop shop for supporting energy communities is really a game changer, and well, hopefully it will keep on growing and providing more services. And this is from my side. Sorry, maybe I took so much time. Here you have the QR. So if you want to have a look to the platform, how it's structured, the content, and these kind of things, you are absolutely welcome. And that's all. From my side.
Since Ivan has to leave, if there are questions for him, they can be asked now. Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering if the platform is only for the communication and the regulation, or it's also supporting implementing technical solutions also?
The thing is, ideally support everything and also implementing technical solution. What we have in the project, in this BECKON project, is in the step-by-step guidance. You have, for example, tools that support, for example, in the design part of the community in terms of, for example, techno-economic assessment. For instance, you can have that. Also, you have even technical support, for example, to design the governance of a community. So imagine a community that a group of different stakeholders come to to use the one-stop shop, and they have, for example, to design how the governance structure is gonna happen. So there is technical tools to support on that. Also, in the communities which are already, for example, established, there is in part of this step-by-step guidance which you have separated in the different stages of the communities. You have design, initiation, design, operation, and installation of the community. So in the operation side, for example, there is a possibility to monitor, for instance, a specific community and get recommendation on that. So it is a comprehensive tool that can support the communities in every different step. In the reality, what we are seeing now is, as the topic still is kind of new, the energy communities, the requests that we are having are more in the phase of the design and initiation steps, which don't really, is more like, let's say, theoretical, more like to set up a business model, the use case, to structure the financial of the community, these kind of things. And we have tools to develop that. And in the operational side, we still don't have a request for that, but we will deliver that support if needed. Yeah.
Good. Please, okay, so one-stop shop. Maybe I missed that point, but it doesn't also mean that in the one-stop shop you take care somehow of the difference between the countries, because particularly if you go to stuff like everything that's transposed from the European directive to national legislation has consequences for financial models, for other things. How do you take care of that in the one-stop shop? So if I'm from Poland or from the Netherlands, I go to the same webpage, do I get different information, or how does that work?
Yeah, what we have, well, is we have 3 pilot areas. It's supposed that the coverage have to be like European level. Obviously, as you're saying, this is absolutely, if you go to the detail, it's impossible. So the way that we have approached that is we have like general, let's say, information in which is in English. So basically everyone, but obviously this is more like for the, let's say, initiation step in with people that say, okay, I want to set up an energy community. I really don't know much. So I can get there and you can get, let's say, general information on energy communities in all the different topics, technical, regulation, financial, and so on. Then when you go deep into national regulation, what we have is in the different countries, one of the places that we have, which is this one here, the one on your right, I think you're right, yeah, the Opportunity Hub. This is specific for the different demo areas. So there is the demo area in Sofia, the demo area in Copenhagen, and in Avila. So in this, let's say, a specific place, there are specific information on regulation, for example, financial scheme, like local, let's say. So this is, you can go one step deeper in depth in the national regulation, on the national transposition, what is the state of art on that. So there's like, let's say, one layer like more general for, let's say, first get in touch, and then a second layer more in depth for these specific 3 countries. And yeah, the idea is, well, if more countries join the platform, we will develop further insight on the different countries. Yeah.
Yeah, and about joining the platform, you said there's technology solutions. How do you choose? Is it open source? I mean,
Yeah.
It's open source.
Yeah, well, there's a mix. So what we have there is the first thing that we did is we did a huge, let's say, research on available tools. For example, the Energy Community Repository, the Rural Energy Community Hub that they were promoted by the European Commission. So we selected the tools that we found more relevant, and we collected there. This is in the part that you have the filters, set a step-by-step guidance. If you have in your left here, you have a step-by-step guidance and filters. So you can filter in like in a huge, let's say, sort of database. But the thing is that we wanted to go one step further. So we have organized that information in a way that is structured in the different steps. So if you, I don't know, if you have to contract, let's say something very obvious for you to understand what I mean. So if you want to get into contracting a PV plant, let's say from a supplier, first you need to have a techno-economic assessment, and first you need to have a basic engineering, and first you need to have a basic governance on your community. So it gives you some tips on the right order to do that. But in terms of the tools themselves, what we have is like in one side the screening of several databases, and then after we have developed our own specific tools, which are included there as well. So we have a mix of specific, when we didn't find the right tool that we wanted, for example, we didn't find a tool for the techno-economic assessment for the use case that we find in Spain, for example, is the common one, the most relevant, and at that adjusted to the Spanish regulation. So we develop that tool, and it's included here.
So like a multi-sided business model marketplace kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, I believe we have Bartek.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going.
Okay, thanks, Ivan.
Thanks, everyone. Need to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I will miss that one. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you very much. See you. Bye.
May I ask you for two pictures?
Yeah, of course, sure.
The project will ask me. So.
Yeah, of course, I'm happy to. So Bartek is from the municipality of Krakow. So, no?
Almost.
Almost?
Krakow metropolitan area.
Okay,
I will
you will explain.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. I think that,
That's the common mistake, yeah.
but it's good to have a different type of stakeholder to give that perspective. So, Bartek with the COMANAGE project. Thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Bartłomiej Smenda. I'm from Krakow metropolitan area. There's a common mistake. We are not a municipality. We work with a municipality. We work with Krakow and the 14 surrounding the Krakow municipalities. We are the association. And right now in Krakow metropolitan area, we have 3 energy communities. There are 2 energy cooperatives that are municipal based in Skawina municipality and in Niepomice municipality, and also we have northern crown of Krakow cluster. This is 4 municipalities that created the cluster, but this Niepomice and Skawina is municipal based, so it's only the members of this energy community, energy cooperative, are the part of municipality. So, to be honest, that's when we look at RED 2 directive, it's not like real energy community, because there's like one member, one vote, but here all the members are depending on the mayor. So we know how the voting will go. And the northern crown of Krakow cluster, they created the cluster, but nothing large was happened. I will get back to it. And also in the city of Krakow, there's important information that the most developed form of energy community in Poland is energy cooperative, but it cannot be in the cities, in the urban areas. It can be in the rural areas and urban and rural areas. This whole story about that I can tell you later, but there's another form of energy communities, collective prosumer, and the Krakow had meetings and developed a report how citizens can create one. Right now, the collective prosumer is only one in Poland, and it was developed by the government with a lot of help of the government. So as you see in Poland, energy communities are just developing. So we don't have like this. We also in Poland, the great barrier is a lack of trust between the people. This is like the history part. So like comparing to Spain, to other countries, there is a lack of cooperation between the people. But right now I can see that it's changing a little bit. The food cooperation, material cooperation are creating. So I hope well for the future. One of the interesting projects that we have in the Krakow metropolitan area is that municipality of Niepołomice wants to create energy cooperative for the citizens. So like only the citizens will be members, and in these 10 citizens, few of them are, we can call them energy poor poverty, energy poor people. So I have great hopes for this project. It's hard to do it, but we are going one by one. And also from last year, there is a lot of interest of creating a municipal-based energy cooperative from different municipalities. It's like the mayor tell the employee of the municipal checked if it's okay, if it will work. Right now in Poland, we know there is 66 energy clusters, probably more, but in this year they just started to register themselves, and we have 41 energy cooperative. I checked this in 13th of September. It's not a great amount, but the first energy cooperative was in 2021, but the legislation for energy cooperative was in 2016. And this first energy cooperative was created by the expert in the energy area. They're really expert. They wanted to create this and later sell their knowledge to others who want to do it. To those co-framework goes Project COMMANAGE, and Project COMMANAGE was created because in another project they identified barriers that the energy communities have. This lack of confidence in the citizens, lack of public contact points, lack of knowledge, legal, and a lot of misconception. And so what COMMANAGE is doing, they are creating the toolkit with a lot of tools that can help to create energy community, but also to stimulate the uptake of the new community project, because we saw that it's hard to create one, but it's very hard to go another step, to build more of it. We are financed from LIFE project. We have 11 partners from Spain, Greece, Italy, Poland. And the main product of the project is the toolkit, like I said. The OIS Hub, this is the meeting with the stakeholders. Here in Krakow metropolitan area, it looks like that, like we met a lot of time with employees of the municipality. We teach them, we tell them from the beginning what is energy community, how it works, what are the benefits. And also another project is a COMMANAGE open platform. I will talk about this later, decision support system and a learning platform. In the tools, we have, there are 5 different aspects. I will not go through it, but I'm very proud of the first one, the statute of the energy cooperative, the model is agreement, because it's something that it's not open in the public. Normally the municipality or citizens need to pay for it like a couple thousand of zlotys, so it's like barrier. Now it's open, everyone can get it and use it. And these all tools are in the COMMANAGE open platform. To put it simply, it's just a website. So it's easy to get there, to download the different kind of tools. And also from this website, they can go to a learning platform. It works like there are presentations on the Moodle platform, so it's easy to jump in to learn something, and this is the topics of this presentation. Another very interesting and very hard part, very tool, is decision support system. It should work like ChatGPT. So the citizen have a question about the energy community. They ask the question, and the decision support system gets the answer from the knowledge of the COMMANAGE project and also from the open source documents, and later get the answer and can can ask another question. But right now there's a big problem because the decision support system have a very great trouble with Polish language. So sometimes the answers are just very weird, like the beginning of the AI. So, but we try to polish it to this so that we can introduce it to the public and don't be ashamed later. So we will see, but I think that we will go with it. Okay. During the beginning of the project, there was telephone survey with municipal employees because we work only with municipalities. We don't work with citizens. We work with municipalities and encourage them to get back to citizens. And this is the barriers that was identified. And I will go what the COMMUNITAS is doing with these barriers. So for the lack of universal developed procedure how to open energy cooperative, we created the statutes, the model. So the legal part is there. Just Dowland, polish it, tailor it to your preference and use it. For the lack of knowledge about how to balance and the problem with finding in own expert, in the COMANAGE project we can and we did that, subcontracted the legal and the technical expert to work directly with the municipalities. So technical expert created an energy balancing tool. It's like Excel sheet, like for only 10 members, but it's like the first step. So they can go from it. And also during this Always Hub meeting, we have from the September to December 2023, every month we had a meeting with the expert. It was very intensive time to teach municipalities, employees about energy communities and energy cooperative. About the lack of knowledge, how to raise funds, lack of theoretical and technical knowledge. This all information are in the e-learning platform. Also, there is a presentation about the good practice from Poland, from Europe. That would be it. Here, please check the LinkedIn page. Right now, we develop this open platform, we launch it, and we also launched the e-learning platform. That's all from me, and thank you very much. No, I don't like discussion.
Yeah, sure. Next up, we have Franz from University. Sorry?
I'm going to block the door before more people leave.
Yeah. Two more to go. Franz from University of Twente presenting sustenance.
Yeah. Can you also take a picture of me?
Yeah.
I only have a code on my telephone.
Yeah.
Maybe you can use your.
Just unlock it.
Just unlock it, yeah. Just like it, that it doesn't fall back to the code. That's the only thing that my communication officer wants me is actually.
They always do.
They want make something out of that.
Okay.
So don't take a picture of the audience.
Yeah.
So I can still make up the story that well, the crowd was hundreds of people, but no, let's not make any jokes about it. Okay. Actually, the title of my presentation fits very well with the previous presentation, and I chosen a word that is not very common. Non-EU directive energy communities. Now, I was supposed to talk about the SUSTENANCE project. Now, what I'm not going to do, not going to go into the nitty-gritty details of all the technical stuff that we were doing in the project. I want to make some straight points, actually, about what the role of communities is and why we actually have communities. So, unfortunately, Stefan left the room, but he already made quite an important point. He said, in the end, actually, it's not about making energy communities. We have a lot of projects that try to help energy communities, make energy communities. Actually, Why are we doing this? We're doing this because of the energy transition. We're doing this particularly because of the local energy transition. And everybody in this room will actually agree that communities of citizens, collective decision-making peoples, are very important for the energy transition. But then we have two different things, community energy and energy communities. And they're, in literature and in policy practice, they're used a lot interchangeable. Now, the thing is, we have this concept of energy communities that actually is raised, of course, in the time by the lobby of RESCHOOL, and that went into the EU directives. But the question is actually, does it always have to be like that? Now, actually, the Polish example already shows that no, it doesn't have to be. It can be transposed to something else than that. And we were asked to talk about barriers, and the Sustenance project has a nice title. We are doing sustainable energy systems for achieving novel carbon-neutral energy communities. There are two problems already in that title. So when we were making the project, we were actually not really thinking about energy communities in terms of the directive. We were thinking about communities in the terms of a place. So we have two problems. The problem is that how do we deal with the word community? I will get back to that. And the other thing is actually, why do we have communities? And the point I'm going to try to make very shortly is that there are barriers for using the EU directive-based energy communities, like the policy presentation already shows, depending on the specific countries, but also on other reasons. So I'm going to give the examples from the Systems project to illustrate that. And my point is that we do have a lot of informal energy communities that are completely not based on the EU directive, but still fulfill a number of functions that the EU actually is expecting from energy communities. And what is this? Can we use that? Can we scale that up? Can we do something with that? And the context of the discussion, again, is actually about local energy system transition. We need to change the energy system from a fossil fuel system to a renewable energy system on the local level, decentralized, distributed system, etc. Let's not go into the details there. And it's for communities in terms of a place and people with the same identity, yeah? And often, of course, if we're doing energy communities in the sense of the EU directive, it only probably is a small part of that community. Can get back to that later. And what you need for that is you have to think about how do you actually come about with the local energy transition. Now, I'm not going to go into all the advantages. Of course, these are the advantages that the European Union has given. Why we need energy communities actually are the same, why it's so important to involve citizens, and why is it so important to involve communities. It's all about public assessment, acceptance. It's about raising private investments in the local energy transition. It's about making a more empowered system. It's about, and that's a point that we miss a little bit in the discussion, is actually that citizens also should benefit more from the energy transition. All these points hold, but at the moment that you're going to think about changing a local energy system, coming up with innovations, there are more elements in this citizens, collectives, and communities that could help us make better, sustainable innovation changes. Among, of course, it's simply community power. People that hold resources and decision power supporting your innovations, that is very helpful. It's also about, but it's a general one, of course, if that the community can actually help because of social acceptance, about support, and also by this financial contribution. And we have a lot of examples of where actually bottom up, the community of people comes actually up with the new innovative ideas and solutions, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't always have to be from even from researchers or other ones. Okay, so the Sustenance project, we are not so much about making energy communities in the terms of European energy communities. We were striving for geographical communities that, in the end, become carbon neutral. Yeah, and for that we rather use the word citizen-centered renewable local energy systems. So energy systems that really are based on the involvement and the support of citizens. And in the end, it's about vital communities, vital sustainable communities for the people. Not going into details, we have demos in Denmark, we have Denmark, we have in Poland, and the Netherlands, and in India. Now, of course, having the possibility in a Horizon project to work together with India, as you can imagine, completely switches your idea of communities. Now, there's also the element of autarky in our system. I'm not going to talk about that, but we have 2 villages in India, I'll get back to that as illustration, where actually people do not have access to the grid or a very weak grid connection. And if you're trying to build a system there or to provide energy service there, you also are working from a perspective of a community. In India, they never heard about European energy communities, and that's not relevant in that context at all. So what is our idea? So if we're trying to change local energy systems, it's not just about technical change. As most of you understand, we really take the perspective of social technical systems, which means that you have to change the system in terms of technical infrastructure, etc. But you also have to make a change in the social organizational side. It's a complementary thing. It's actually that you're changing the organizational configuration in which the sustainable innovation actually take place. Yeah, and then in this complementary organization framework, of course, the EU-directed energy communities could play a role. Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. When we started the project, we thought, in the end, we end up with a number of EU-directed energy communities. We did not. So we are well prepared to talk about barriers because we didn't actually manage to do that. Actually, an energy community, an EU-directed energy community, or like in Poland, is like already a social innovation in the social technical energy system. Now, let's not go over the meanings of communities. If you would look at this from a sociological perspective, you see that people use communities in very different ways. Think about it very shortly for yourself and how many communities you actually are. You probably are on Facebook in communities, you live in a community, your football club might be a community. There's so many different ways that we actually are using communities. And now here, if we talk any energy transition, I hear here also at the SUSTENANCE conference that we easily throw all the different parts of communities in the same pot, which is actually not, and there has been some literature there looking at definitions, there's Thomas Bowers and other ones, and they actually very interested, they added one particular community to what was already in the sociological literature, which was communities as a technology, where actually people become a community because they are gathering around a certain technological innovation. But all the other ones, of course, are also very relevant. I mean, mostly we will think about communities as a place. That's actually what we think about in our project. But it can also be on the basis of an identity. We can have virtual communities. You can think about it in terms of an outcome of the process. I don't want to think too much about that. I just want to make the point that think about what actually a community is. Now, the cases, because I have to illustrate the barriers very quickly with the cases that we had. So it's all about collective, citizens-driven energy actions that energy communities or communities actually take. And clearly, it's not just about generating renewable energy systems. We've seen some examples coming by, and also Stefan was mentioning it when he was talking about EV mobility changes. It can be energy efficiency services, it can be energy storage, it can be electrical mobility, managing energy distribution. There are even energy communities that actually are functioning as DSOs. It can be about education. There are many functions that an energy community could actually fulfill. This point is very important because it might mean then that you do not have to be an EU-based community if you do not, for instance, want to go on the flexibility market. If you're not actually generating energy yourself, but you're doing some other tasks. Okay, now quickly, we have a demo in Sopot, which is part of Gdansk in Poland. And this is really about an apartment building. The apartment building is community owned. These are owners. They're there since the 1970s. And we did an innovation system there on the hot water, and it worked fine. It worked within the House Owners Association. Yeah? Democratic decision-making, people decided together, as all of the house owners were going to do this. Most of you would know the concept of house owners associations. That worked well. The house owners associations taking up some of the costs. House owners are taking some of the costs. The next step that we wanted to do there was building an energy system, including, for instance, PV panels on the roof and things like that. We tried to introduce a Polish energy community concept. Did not work till now. Completely stagnated. Why? Legislation in Poland, of course, is still unclear, but there was also a lot of resistance in Poland against the concept of being a cooperative. People didn't want to invest, people were not secure, and so the project works on the basis of a community. The community is the house-owning community, but bringing this to the level of a more EU-directive community, we do not manage that. Adenhuis, other example, it's one of the two communities that we have in the Netherlands. It's a community that's already about 12 to 40 years old. It's 24 earthship houses, latest state of the art of that time, and still is in terms of sustainability. They're sustainable houses built by the owners. So they have already a system of democratic decision making. They already know how to do the investments together. Now, I'm not going to go into technical details of what we specifically did in this project there, but here the problem is, if you look at, from the terms of barrier, at energy communities, the scale of 24 is too small to make an energy community. And actually there is already an energy community in their municipality, which they're part of a bigger whole. And what makes then the sense of making them a formal EU energy community if there's a larger energy community that is already there? And I've already heard this in some of the other cases here at the conference. So there's a problem of scale. You need to have a certain scale to be a viable community. Other case that we have is Slim Park. At our campus, we have an EV charging park. Now, you would think an EV charging park is simply an energy service. What does it have to do with the community? Well, actually, if you have an EV charging park and you depend on other people charging, and the moment they are charging, and you have to actually decide when to charge and actually use it as a kind of a commons, when to put your cow in the commons and not to put your cow in the commons, actually it becomes a kind of a community. So people depend on each other, because if I charge, somebody else cannot charge renewable energy, and actually the spotters take, etc., etc. Not going to go into details here. The only thing here is, of course, and that is compared to the two other examples, there's no co-ownership here. They do not own the park, they're just customers there. But still you can consider this as a kind of a community. Interesting one that we have is Vørlegard in Denmark. This is really a community as a technology. We as a project, we introduced some heating technology there, but they were self-selected houses. They are mostly the owners, and it's a combination of them paying some individual costs and the project paying something. So there is voluntary cooperation at the moment, but it's not an energy community, although they do have some aspects of what would be an energy community. Will there be an energy community in the future? Yes, because Denmark is changing the energy tariffs, so that might be interesting for them to become an energy community. Last category is actually the villages that we have from India. Of course, they do not have EU-directed energy communities, but we are building there, our Indian partners have really built there a community-based integrated renewable energy system, including electrical rickshaws, water pumping, cooling, some agriculture functions, all from renewable energies. For actually communities that either didn't have electricity or had very weak electricity from the grid. And they have a village council that makes decisions there, so there's a form of representative democracy, and it actually shows that you could well have a community, that this is really a community making the decisions themselves, what they want and do. It doesn't have to be like the form that we are normally thinking about. Okay, so conclusion, wrap it up. I think we should carefully look at existing social community structures that could function actually for the function of legal energy communities, although they would not be the energy communities as most laws in Europe are. In particular, they would be interesting in the context of system innovation that we're doing a lot. Because you actually are gathering citizens, you're organizing the citizen engagement around the technology, and you're solving some of the barriers of this transposition of the EU directives and the unclear legislation, and you might take away some of the resistance against getting formally organized. Because in Poland, people that live in the building are already organized on a voluntary basis. They don't oppose against that. They oppose against being an energy cooperative. We've seen in the project that it takes quite a lot of calendar time and other factors to actually get energy community organized. Initiators, finances, legal structure. There is this problem of scale. If you only have 24 houses, unfortunately Las Palmas went, but they also had like 24 houses, or you have already existing energy communities, how do you deal with that? And if you have a system, either if it's a farmer organization, it's a village committee, if any other existing social community that has the possibility to add to their activities this energy community activity, it might be much more durable, because you see that a lot of energy communities, as far as I've seen in the Netherlands, are really wrestling with keeping up the good work, because it's a lot of voluntary work. And people drop out, they get tired after 5 years and actually doing this. So nothing against energy-based, EU energy-based energy communities, because it guarantees the way that we do collective investments with co-ownership, and one person, one vote, and so that's democratic quality. It works very well for energy generation projects. It works very well if you really want to make some money out of things like flexibility mechanisms, etc. But I just want to say, for some other things, or maybe as a step up to even, don't forget about the social community structures that we already have and might be the basis. And my last remark is, we're working in another project, and actually there we are asking ourselves the question, like, if we were setting up somewhere an energy community, where would we start? Actually, then it's already like, let's look for a village that already has a community structure. What is the community structure? Can we build on the community structure that is already there? Or should we start from scratch, go to a theater, ask people to come, people that never met each other, and then they should start an energy community? I hope everybody understands this different pathway. Okay, I hope I didn't go too much over time. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
We have one presentation left. So.
Yeah, and then we'll have a quick discussion. Thank you. So sorry, Antonis. Last but definitely not least, Antonis from Hypertech in Greece, representing the Accept project.
You sit here, or?
Whichever you want.
Okay.
You can keep them both on. Yeah.
Okay, so now it's my duty to make you fall asleep. It's the last presentation. So I think I'm the only one who took the request of Zia too literally to talk about regulations and barriers. So I just prepared a couple of slides just talking about that. In terms of the project per se, I mean, the most notable thing to say is that we have still 3 months to go. So we've done most of the work. We've hit most of these barriers. And that's what I was planning to report on. We have 4 pilot sites, 2 of which are formal EU directive-based communities. And the other 2 are, I think, of the type that Franz was describing before. So not formal communities per law, but more like informal groups of people that work together. Now, just to spice things up a bit, I also included some of my, let's say, complaints from my personal involvement in an energy community in Greece. So I made a bit of a mix of different complaints I could make. Unfortunately, not many people are going to hear them. Starting with regulatory or regulations, which in my mind are always a regulatory barrier, because regulation never ends up, contributing something good. So there are standard things that have been said before many times. So regulations change a lot. They're different between member states and so on. Always it's difficult to make tools, markets, and so on to address a larger audience. One specific case that was partly alluded to by Franz is that the national legislation introduces sometimes significant administrative overheads to communities. Like, for example, establishing a legal entity. In Greece, in my personal involvement, the community has the same tax reporting obligations as a multinational company. So you see, I mean, people would like to avoid that for obvious reasons. Then there is another recent development, recent few years back in some countries it's coming. So there's this transition from net metering to net billing schemes. Right? So net metering was the best thing that ever happened to communities. It was too good to be true, and it stopped being true. So now we have to deal with net billing. And of course, this diminishes the benefits for the community members. collective self-consumption is much more hard and much less beneficial. And further than that, it forces communities to seek professional support for planning and implementing and designing and so on, right? Their generation assets. It's not something that you can do as a hobby anymore. You know, a retired guy just saying, okay, I need a PV plant of so much kilowatts. And of course, you know, all these things add up into the process of, you know, starting up community, deciding to install something, I mean, acquire a generation plant and so on. Now, on the other hand, regulations prioritize grid over the communities. We see that a lot. There's this famous example from Spain where, you know, the geographical span of communities had to be 500 meters in the beginning, which is crazy. I mean, how do you imagine a community scaling if everybody has to live within 500 meters of each other, right? So this is a good example of, you know, probably the positional power of DSOs against basically citizens. Now, on the other hand, you have infrastructure constraints. Everybody knows those as well. They're well reported. Grid capacity. In several grids, there's no capacity anymore to add new renewables. Even finding land for generation plants can be, well, is very tricky, especially if you're not a professional. Suitable land, that is. Times for approval, for permits, for, you know, installing generation plants, smart metering and data, if you like, availability. In many countries, it's still, yeah, a joke, even if smart meters exist. So maybe to some more custom things that we learned along the way of the project. So some barriers to self-consumption schemes and participation of citizens, but more from, if you like, a citizen perspective. So things we've learned that there are several cultural barriers. I mean, some were alluded to in the previous session of this workshop. They have to do a lot with how people use energy in their daily life, their daily practices. I mean, changing your practice to be more compatible with energy efficiency, as was Stefano was saying in the first presentation, means you have to change basically your lifestyle. And that's not something that many people are willing to do. Exactly why net metering was a blessing, and now we are coming with net billing, which is a completely different scheme in terms of the requirement it poses on the people, right, and on their daily habits and practices. There are several economic barriers as well. We see very protective, well, countries being very protective of their retail markets. You know, don't expose citizens to price volatility of wholesale markets and so on. Yes, that would be good, but on the other hand, then you're missing off on the benefits of self-consumption. I mean, if electricity is cheap, there's no incentive to move there, right? So the relative benefit is very small. There's also a personal, if you like, struggle that we see very often, especially when you try to either initiate communities, as also Franz was mentioning before, or even evaluating whether to, if you like, participate in a new initiative within a community, right? So subgroups of a community want to install, for example, a new generation plant. So there's always a balance between how much I want to be involved and how much fuss is going to create in my personal life against what is the benefit, economic or otherwise, right? So if I see a clear benefit, even as an individual, I would like to be involved more in this. But there is a balance, and the way things are moving, this balance is moving towards less benefits and more fuss and involvement for you as a person, especially for the people who are running communities, and most probably in a voluntary fashion, right? Also, there is this impact of personal principles, if you like. So how much do I care about the environment, and how much do they weigh in this balance? So there are many different, if you like, personal aspects that need to be taken into account. You know, I'm a technology guy, and I always claim that automation helps. For example, with you know, in-demand response, you don't want to do everything manually. Automation helps, but then again, how do people see automation? What's their attitude towards that? So losing control, basically, of their you know, assets within their home, of their laundry machine, whatever. And something that I think was probably unique to our project is that in our case, we also wanted to, if you like, test digital tools that would help communities become service providers, so become ESCOs, become flexibility service providers. And when we're trying to think about, you know, the business model of this, how this is going to work, right, then you also come up with several barriers.
Again, they can be from several different sides. So first of all, there are high participation thresholds with in anything you want to do relate to the energy market, right? If you want to become a retailer in the market, participate in the wholesale market, there are high market access costs. You need to deposit guarantees, large guarantees. If you want to go into demand response, there are high minimum capacities that you need to satisfy. So you always see roadblocks as as a small player composed of citizens trying to do something more, if you like, professional. Also, obviously, professional services involve risk. I mean, they are commercial activities. And from my experience at least, they're not very, if you like, compatible with a typical community member in terms of how much they like taking risk. Usually, these people are quite risk averse and they want simpler solutions and, less fast, more guarantees in their involvement with communities. Now, on the other hand, again, in the same context, decision-making is a challenge. So communities involve, if you like, more rigid decision-making. It has to be inclusive, participatory. You need everybody to take a stand, vote, go through the democratic processes. This is slow. It takes time. You need to gain consensus, as opposed to a private company offering services, which is just agile and quick, and you decide today I do this, tomorrow I do that. So these are difficulties in communities doing something closer to a market, be it an organized market, for example, for energy or ancillary services, or even becoming an ESCO for its members, for example, right? If you have to compete against market players. Also, there are several communities that have organically grown to become very large in Europe, right? And we know some nice examples, but they are some nice examples. So this is not the norm. And I see that it's hard basically to grow as a grassroots movement, right? As a cooperative of neighbors or people who are just, have a good intention at the beginning to do something with a common goal and grow into something that can scale significantly in order to become someone who can play a role basically in these markets. And there are many capacities, many expertise you need to acquire on the way. I mean, starting from, I don't know, a 10 people or 20 people team and growing, you need many more expertise, technical things, as Zia was mentioning before, but also financial. Financial means managing finances, right? Managing finances, acquiring funding and financing for projects, operational management of then a legal entity, and so on and so on. So it's starting to look more like a journey of a small company, of a startup, which starts with a couple of people, and then have a nice idea, and then they're burdened with all these other things, all this overhead that grows on them before they manage to make something and give it out to the world. So these were some thoughts about barriers for energy communities. And I guess there's not too much discussion.
No, I think I mean, I definitely have a question, but I don't know do you both want to go up in front of the camera and I'll ask the question, you can all answer it? Is that okay?
Yeah. You mean that there's actually people online?
Yeah, well, we have a recording, so it doesn't matter. Like you said, there's 1,000 people in the audience.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is, so a common theme I heard was raising awareness, but my question is, do we even have awareness of what works? Like, what is the ideal structure? You said, community energy versus energy community. Mm-hmm. And there's, the India doesn't have the European directives. And, there's all these things of, the municipality or municipal community you mentioned. Mm-hmm. What do we have an idea of what the ideal structure is? Is it a certain... You mentioned 24 houses is not enough. Like, what is the ideal that we're going for that could actually work and become part of some, because I think it's red where it's the three: collective self-consumption, renewable, or citizen. which is the title of the workshop. So like, do we have just those 3 structures, or are there 10 more, you know?
Well, actually, this also comes back to the idea of in how far should energy community as being a legal organizational form be based on a social community. So we did some work on energy savings initiated by energy communities under RESCOOL Europe, and it actually shows that people that are member of an energy community of RESCOOL are more willing to save energy, and that from who the message comes, yeah. And the fact that you are in a community and you have certain social norms really helps. If you're living in a building, you do have some social norms with your neighbors. You might think, I don't actually want to invest, but if everybody is doing it, I can also buy a new heater. Things like that. So I think the community aspect should not be underestimated. And it's not so much in that sense about size. What I meant with size is that 24 households can make a great community and do a lot of things together and decide them very democratically. The problem is if you want to do some other things, financial investments, if you want to go out on the market, use flexibility mechanisms, things like that, tariff structures, then of course that is actually asking for skill, not the fact that people might not live up and be more aware because of their neighbors. And it is an interesting question. I ask people like, if you introduce an innovation somewhere, my idea is that many people, even neighbors, start talking about it. If everybody gets a heat pump, then people start talking about, hey, how is your heat pump going? So there is already some awareness coming, but that's my idea.
I will add the comment that in Poland we have introduced the energy cooperative form as energy community, but it was before the transcriptive or RED 2 directive to Polish. And it was energy cooperative and cluster. Last year or 2 years ago, the RED 2 directive was transcribed to Polish law, and now we have 7 forms of energy community. I'm laughing because we understand energy cooperative, we understand clusters, and 5 more is like we don't get it. Like there is like also in Poland, like in the law, it's possible to create energy community and buy a coal mine and produce electricity from the coal. It's like so. And going back to your question about what works, I think like energy cooperative works for municipalities because like I said, like the mayor is the guy who makes decision, and the rest of the members saying, okay, so he have all the votes. So, but to be honest, that's not a real energy community, because I'm also really sad that they had to leave, because for me, like I really like the idea of energy community for the aspect that the citizens are owners of their own energy. And right now in Poland is still like we have 5 big companies, and they are fighting energy communities as they can. That's why in cities there cannot be energy cooperative. There's no technical reason, but there is only that it would be too easy for citizens to do it. So the energy companies will be lost money on that.
Mention a legal entity set up. It relates to this. I mean, is that the bare minimum to be an energy community, that you're a legal entity? Like what? But I'll let you answer the first question.
Yeah. So on the first question, I think there's no single solution. There's no silver bullet. I think it has to do, what works has to do with the opportunities of the local regulation. I think what actually works in terms of growing or spreading the community concept is small wins. Right? So if one group starts, finds the opportunity, does something that others perceive as useful, they're starting to be jealous or starting to replicate this because they see there are benefits. That's the only way things are going to work. It has to be, if you like, results oriented. In terms of the legal framework or the legal structure, so currently, at least in Greek regulation, energy communities are treated as for-profit companies in terms of tax regulation, which means that an energy community and the Coca-Cola company have the same obligations to report to the tax authorities. And you can imagine that, for a person voluntarily trying to support an energy community, that's not, the best situation to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably goes against what a municipal co-op is, which is probably not for profit. I don't know. I just think I'm leaving this workshop more confused than I came in. Like, what actually is an energy community? I thought I knew. What is an energy co-op versus an energy community? Like, do we even have definitions? I mean, I think we're overcomplicating it, to be honest. I think we need some chief simplicity officers kind of enforcing some common ground, maybe. I don't know.
I read the definition, but it was like I like this very broad definition. So like energy community is like citizen base, like they just produce energy, then use it the self-consumption, and that's it. For me, it's like this is energy community, because right now there's a lot of energy cooperative, like mostly all, that are companies. So there are free companies, and they just using it because they get better incentives and better. And they not doing it because they like to fight the climate change. Or they just, okay, we can pay you like 30-40% less bills. Let's do it. So maybe I'm too pessimistic, but it looks like that. I know that we have a great example, like in the municipality of Serox. It's near the Warsaw, near the capital. One guy just went to the mayor, and I have idea, and the mayor trusted him. And now this guy with a mayor just gathered the people, gathered the citizens, that they created the energy cooperative. It's like citizen-based, but municipal involved as the first, the spark. But right now, it was like 3 years ago, and still they don't have the PV installation because a lot of barriers, problem with the citizens. So it's also hard to be very optimistic about it, yeah? Because if it will work, for me, it will be like energy community. Like, this is energy community. Also, this what they're doing in Niepołomice, I'm also trying to help them as I can, because this is energy community. Like, citizens helping each other. Like, I think the main reason why they are doing it, because first they have money for PV installation, and they don't want the money to lose, like the value of money is going down, and also like the benefit for these energy poverty people. Yeah, for me this is energy community in form of energy cooperative. So like maybe that's if there is so many forms that anyone can use this form that they want, and energy community is like everything, but like the main is like the citizen based for me.
Personally, my definition is that the community members own some of the asset. For me, that's what I like to think of an energy community as, but I could be wrong.
But do you mean owning can be collectively owning things? Yeah, but if you are living in an apartment building and you are a member of the apartment builders association, you're also co-owning part of the building. You're paying in, and they do some things. So there are many other communities that actually do that, and then we do not, but it's not a legal energy community, but they can still, as an apartment building, still do a lot with energy, and you could think about other things. And yeah, we should carefully look to the concept of what a community is. I think for energy communities, of course, I agree that this ownership of energy and collective decision making are key elements that should be there. But let's not throw the child away with the bathwater and say that's actually not. And unfortunately, Stéphane went, but he said, like in France, there are many energy communities that are not formally energy communities. And then even examples that I use, there are even Dutch communities that are in the database of RESCOOL Europe that are actually not energy communities in the formal law, because they were around for quite some time. So, yeah, the characteristics of the law help you a little bit, but you already gave some very good examples where it actually is a problem. One of the, depending on the type of energy community that you have, the place-based thing can be a problem. Who is actually involved, which partners, etc. And that all this transport differently in different countries doesn't make it easier. And then you give some great examples, of course, of some problems that are there, or which there is some overall policy that is not interesting. And also in the past, of course, we had cases where there was, okay, if you give something very specific to energy communities, let's say, I think there were the examples in Germany, let's say you can only get a concession for wind energy if you are an energy community. What do you think that the big players do then? They start energy communities, yeah, in a different way.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. Thank you to the 1,000 people in the audience. Thank you to the speakers who are left, who aren't on airplanes. Yeah, thanks.
And thank you, online people. We know that you are there.
Very brave.
Thank you.